and welcome to episode 6 of the Spring Snowflake podcast. My name's Sophie. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. If you are a new viewer, welcome along. I'm in a new place for those who have come back. There are blue walls behind me. And if I keep looking this way, it's because my notes are here, because I'm a bear of little brain at the moment. Always. But anyway, so this is a podcast about mostly crocheting, some knitting, bit of craft, other crafts sometimes, although I don't actually have any other crafts this time because I haven't been sewing. So today I'm going to talk to you about my finished objects, and there's quite a few, considering my works in progress, my frogs, because there are a few, my queue, so things I want to get started on next, new things, and a bit of a life update. Also, this episode is the episode where I am going to be announcing the winner of the raffle for my Granny E's Frugal Sunburst blanket. That was a hashtag. This is, for those of you who are new, this is a raffle for a blanket, which I'll pop a picture up. A blanket that I and some other lovely people from the crochet community made squares for, in the memory of my fabulous grandmother Elizabeth, who died a year ago. The money raised from the raffle will be going to the Alzheimer's Society and the Smallwood Trust, and I'll be talking a lot more about that later on. So you've got to watch the episode before I let you know who's won the raffle. What I will say now at the top of the episode though is thank you. I had an idea in my mind of how much I wanted to raise, and we've surpassed that. So I am really happy. More on that later. Right, so let's get straight in. Finished objects. I'm wearing one. So this is the Skimming Stones Mystery, I'm looking at the front, Mystery Crochet Along shawl, which was and it's really long. It was a crochet project, Mystery Crochet Along. It was 5 weeks long, and it finished, I can't even remember. I'm going to put it back on because I love it. It finished 20th of July, I want to say, or maybe the week after. This was, so Mystery Crochet Along, so they released, it's a Joanne's Grace pattern for the crochet project. They released a part of the pattern every week for 5 weeks. The Facebook group was really active, the hashtag was really active on Instagram, and Eden Cottage Yarns did the main yarn packs, but I decided to go from stash plus plus one acquisition. So the green colour, in which you can see better here, the one thing I love about this, I'm going to take it off again, is it is truly a skimming stone. So you start off here, and then there's a spine that runs down the middle, which is the kind of path of the stone, and then it hits the water and ripples, and then it hits the water again and ripples again, and then it goes off to the side, hits the water and ripples again, and then there's just ripples at the end. And I love it. It's so clever. She is a clever girl, that Joanne. Oh God. And so it started here, and I'm a lefty, so it will look different to other people's. It started here, it increased until that, can you see that slight point at the bottom? I didn't block it that aggressively to a point because I kind of wanted to, I wanted it to be quite a kind of graceful, not harsh, and any harsh lines on it, apart from the one line going up the spine. So there's a point there, and then from that kind of ripple onwards, it's all the same width, but then that spine goes off to the bottom. So it's such a clever design. And I love it. I made it out of, these are all skinny single merino, so single ply merino, and the green was my main colour, and this is the Emerald Isle Woolen exclusive yarn from Unbelievable. Let's go to this side because then you can see the colours better. The kind of cream colour is a natural dyed yarn called From Travel and Wool, which is oak dyed, and then the honey colour is called Wild Honey, and it's by Ushtita, and I love this Wild Honey colour. I am using again another thing, and I'll talk about that later. Loved it. I kept up as well. I never do that thing, particularly at the time of year that it was happening. When this was going on was one of the busiest times of my year. So I'm really impressed that I managed to keep up. But actually, I think this kept me sane during that time. I'm really warm, but I'm keeping it on. Anyway, next, Ross blanket. let's talk about that. So I do not have it to show you because it's gone to my dad, finally. Those of you who've watched before will know that I have struggled with this blanket. This blanket was the Starcraft crochet along 2017. It is the follow-up blanket to the Demelza blanket that was all over Ravelry. It's the Ross Pearl Dark blanket. It's pretty much the same construction with a main square in the middle, and I'll pop a picture of my finished one hanging from the washing line. Main square in the middle, and then lots of different squares and rectangles around the side in lots of earthy tones that you would associate with the Cornish countryside and also Ross Pearl Dark's costumes in the BBC show, if any of you have seen it. I struggled with this blanket, A, because I had a deadline, which I totally and utterly missed. The deadline was my dad's birthday in January, and I gave it to him on the 15th of July when I saw him. We had a family wedding and everyone stayed at my house. I had every bed full in my house. It was lovely. Plus a mattress on the floor in my lounge. So yes, he got it 6 months late. 1, the deadline. 2, wasn't really my colours. And 3, I don't do big blankets. I've realised this, I'm not going to do it to myself. No, I'm not going to say that. Because I've got a few that still need to be finished. I think if I do a blanket again, I have to make sure that it's the only blanket in my whip pile, so I need to make sure that the other blankets that are in my whip pile are done before I start another blanket. I think that's probably it. There are blankets that I want to do, but again, I'll talk about that in my life update. Anyway, next one, Picking Flower sweater, which I will post, I will insert a photo here of me wearing the thing, but it needs a wash. So I pulled it out of the laundry pile. Anyway, it's because it needs to be hand washed. This is my Picking Flower sweater. It's really long. This blocked out so long and actually quite big, which I love because I wanted it to be a slouchy jumper, but the arms are not slouchy, which I love as well. So I've got fitted arms, and you'll see on the photo, but not too tight in the body. It's really good. This yarn, it's merino silk yak, and it is the softest thing. I wore this when we've had every single podcaster from the UK has said this over the last month. We've had a heat wave in the UK and it's finally broken. Yesterday it rained, which was really nice. I went and danced in the rain yesterday. I don't mind the heat. I do mind the heat when it is with us for 4 weeks. Mainly because my house is unbearable. British houses are not designed for heat at all. They just aren't. So I wore that we had one day where it got to about 23 maximum, 23 degrees Celsius. And I went, right, I'm wearing my jumper. Because I really wanted to wear it. This thing has been on my hook since September last year and just, it needed to be done. Anyway, I love that thing. Would I make it again? I don't know, because this was a bit of a labour of love, and to be honest, the stitch goes it's quite relaxing when you're going round and round and round and round and round, but you do still need to think about it, so it's not like endless rows of granny stitch, for example, where you can just watch TV and not have to look at it. To me, it still required some thought, so it did get a bit tedious after a while, particularly since it was a bigger size, so I might make it again, I don't know. Sorry, postman. He brought some shoes, so I'm not complaining. Anyway, what else? Last one is a knitting finished object, and it's some socks. So these are my first ever knitted socks, and they are a little bit big for the blockers because I've got wide feet. So these are my first ever knitted socks. Now, one of these pairs was knit magic loop on a long circular, and one of these pairs was knit. Let's try and work out which one was which. This one was knit on small circulars, and I can tell you that because there's some mistakes. And this one was knit on magic loop on a long circular needle. Both the same size needles, and it's made out of Starcraft Head Over Heels Matterhorn, which I would not use again because it splits. There was a huge knot in the middle, not even at the right colour change, so I had to wind, in order to kind of get my colour repeats the same, I had to wind it on a stupid amount. But yeah, saying that, I love them. I think they will be good socks to wear. I feel like I learnt a lot. The pattern I used was the Winwick Mum sock along, you know, the one that everyone starts, the basic socks. And it's really good. I would recommend the pattern for new sock knitters. I learned a lot of the terminology, I learned a lot of the things that I need to think about. So it's a cuff down, slip stitch heel, decreases in the gusset, there we go, and then like it was like a wedge toe, so you decrease every other round. But I really like them. I like the fact that they match. And I am already thinking about the next pair, so yeah, I wouldn't use the yarn again. But other than that, really like them. So there you go. Again, these were a bit of a labour of love because I was trying desperately to finish them for the JNA Rainbow Along. The Jules and Amy from So Sweet Violet and Little Tailor Rest respectively. They're along, and I was about that far away, and I hadn't kitchenered yet, and I hadn't learned how to kitchener yet, so yeah. No. There are certain things that are mistakes. I will show you one. Where's that mistake? In the... oh, where is it? In the gusset decreases. Oh, let's see if I'll be able to show you this. In the gusset decreases, ooh, there we go. You can see that I had a bit of a jog because I got my decreases in the wrong way round. It all happened in this sock as well, which is the short circular. And also, if you can see, I totally mucked up the rib at the top of the cuff. So if you compare it to these ones, they are a bit mucky. But other than that, I really like them. My gauge is quite tight, so I had to go up to 72 stitches. It's a 60 stitch pattern, but because I didn't want to go above a 2.75mm needle, 3mm just didn't seem right to me. I just increased the number of stitches, so it did mean I was doing a lot more stitches than I probably needed to, but it's all practice. So next set will be for my husband, and I'll tell you about those later. Now, that's my finished objects. Let's tell you about my frogs. Now for this, I'm just going to put those pictures up. As part of the Crafternoon Treats Crafternoon Finish Along this year, that they also encourage you to frog anything that you're just not going to finish. So I decided to frog 2 things as part of that, and then I frogged another thing because, God, it was awful. So I frogged the Linus shawl, which I made out of, oh, and I have it here, wait a minute. Oh! I made it out the same yarn as I made my daughter's cardigan. So this is the Refreshers cardigan, Refreshers yarn. I didn't like the way it was pooling. It was basically a practice piece for me to practice knitting and practice my garter and my increases and my decreases, and I did that. So, and I thought, actually I want the yarn to make socks. So I frogged it, and it's going to make socks. So that's that one. The other one I did was my big 6-strand knitted blanket. So again, I'll see if I can post a picture. So this was inspired by the Lottie and Albert rainbow blanket, but I just felt the tension was too loose in those stitches, and I haven't got anything bigger than a 12mm and smaller than a 20mm needle. So rather than go out and buy a 15mm say and see what happens, I just went, do you know what, frog it and do the crochet version, and I have done with it. So it is in this box right here, the giant ball. I also have a ball of like bluey strands of DK, so I might intersperse them. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, the third thing I frogged was my confetti top. Now I can't remember whether I showed you the yarn or... No, I did. I showed you the yarn for the confetti top in the last podcast, and then I started doing it, and it was again going to be for the Rainbow Along, and I made it. I started sewing it together, and I tried it on, and it was a tent. Now I'm not a small girl. I'm actually trying to work on that at the moment, but I'm not small. This thing like would have fit 2 of me in it. I don't quite know how I did it. I got gauge. Yeah, no idea. I just got really annoyed with it, so I frogged it. And the bamboo cotton is now back in a bag, ready to be something else. I have no idea what it's going to be, but it's going to be something else. So those are my 3 frogs, and that's all part of the Craft New Finish Along, so I will be posting in that Ravelry thread at some point. Let's move along to whips. So my works in progress, I've not got that many, to be honest. All my things are behind me here. So I am making, a friend of mine has had a baby. She is 4 weeks old. Second baby, part of my NCT group, and I'm making her a hat. So this is just a treble crochet hat. I didn't follow any kind of pattern, but I followed the dimensions that Deanne of Adiday Designs has on her, I think it's the Perenni hat. No, the Perenni hat has a kind of circular motif going around it, but what she does have is a table at the start of it that has the dimensions for how much to increase and then how much to do in the length for different ages. So this is the 0 to 6 months size. It's a little bit long, which is why the last row of stitches are actually half treble crochets rather than treble crochets. This is UK terms, but it's fine. What I'm now going to do, I've got to weave in the ends. So it is finished-ish, but I need to decide whether I want to do 2 mini pom-poms or 1 big pom-pom. But yeah, my friend Kelly, whose baby this is not a pink person, like I'm not a pink person, so I basically did purples and blues. There is one strand, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th row from the bottom, which is leftovers from the Vicky Brown DK. I think it's called Fizz, the colourway, which is merino nylon. The rest of it is acrylic. Mostly paint box acrylic DK. So that's that one. So that's whip 1. It's almost done. Baby hats are easy because they whip up in an evening, not even. So project number 2 is in this bag, which is the Me Made bag. You've seen it before, and I am partaking in the Nature's Shades Along, which is hosted by Knit British, and as the title suggests, it's yarn that hasn't been dyed. So undyed yarn, preferably British yarn. So my mother-in-law, I've mentioned her before, is one of my greatest enablers, and she got me yarn from Orkney. Ooh, sorry, from Orkney last time when she was up there doing a bit of a tour. She's a bit of a free spirit, is my mother-in-law. And then, so I started making things with that. I went, I kind of want a lighter colour, I don't know. And then she went to Blenheim. She came down to see us because she looked after my little girl while I was working on a Wednesday during my ridiculously busy period. And she went to Blenheim on one of the days where Amelia was at nursery and I was at work, and she sent me a picture and went, "Do you want these?" I'll post a picture. And I went, yeah. So she bought me, to go with my Orkney yarn, she bought me a skein of yarn from the Romney flock at Blenheim. Now Blenheim is literally up the road from me. The other yarns I think I've shown you before, are the Orkney Shepherdess and then the Isle of Orskeri yarn. And what I'm making is the bubble hat! Or barbel hat. So the barbel hat, I can't remember whether it was designed for a festival of wool years ago, but it's gone a little bit viral since then, and I went, you know what, actually the shades I've got would make a perfect barbel hat. So it's got the biggest amount of ribbing, excuse all the tails, because it will fold up, and I don't know if you can see this, I am at the bottom. I have done the sheep's legs, and now I'm onto their fleece. So I am doing this on hires. They are 5mm. So the bottom is Orkney Shepherdess, and it's Caroline, I think. Yeah, Caroline. The white is the Romney from Blenheim. The dark brown is the Isle of Orskeri, and then the sky will be Bourbon from Orkney Shepherdess. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's very soft, actually, and I feel like it's not like merino. There's still some tooth to it, but and there's quite a lot of thick and thin because it's very natural wool, straight from the supplier for the most part, particularly for the Orkney Shepherdess ones, and also the Romney from Blenheim. But I think it's going to block out beautifully. I think it's going to be lovely and cosy, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying doing colourwork knitting, but with bigger needles, and the fact that actually I'm not worrying. I feel more comfortable with it in this way. I don't know why. I didn't feel quite as comfortable when I did my colourwork pot holder that I made for my little sister. Probably because it's cotton, it doesn't have as much stretch to it and give to it, but this yarn is beautiful to work with. You do have to kind of get used to the toothy feel going through your fingers when I'm so used to dealing with really soft yarn. But yeah, no, I'm really enjoying that, and I don't think it'll be too long before I'm finished. It's for the Nature Shades Along, which is running at the moment and ends on the 31st of August, if anyone wants to get involved, and all the information is on the Knit British Ravelry group, and I'll pop a link in my show notes. Oh, show notes will be on my blog, and the link will be down below. Cool. Right. There's also a secret project, which I'm just going to show you the bag. I can't show you anything else. It's living in here. And I'm doing a secret project, and all will be revealed later this year. It's very exciting. And those are my whips. So not really very much. There's 2 crochet and 1 knitting, because the secret project is crochet. Right, let's talk about the things I want to make. So because I haven't got that many whips, once they're done, I've got my long-term whips, which I am working on. I've been plugging away on my hexagons. Here. So they kind of live by my bed, and if I don't fancy reading, I will do a couple of rounds of those hexagons. And I don't really feel like working on a giant blanket with my Sophie's Universe, or my octagons from America. I don't know. It's a blanket thing. I've just finished the Ross shawl, the Ross blanket, so I'm like, let's just leave the blankets for a bit. Pretty much all I've got is blankets that are on my long-term whip pile. So, the things I want to do. There is a loft along going on. So Faye from Faye DH Designs, Crochet Circle podcast and Knit It, Hook It, Craft It, she designed a shawl pattern called Loft after Edinburgh Yarn Festival this year, and there is an along going along with it until the 31st of August. It is a collaboration between her and John Arbon Textiles, who do all the yarn that she's been, or make all the yarn that she's been using for her lofts. I am stash diving, as per normal. I have actually decided I'm on a yarn buying ban until the next festival I go to, which will be the Southern Wool Show in Newbury on the 1st of September. And even then, I kind of want to limit myself there because I'm going to Yarndale 3 weeks later. I've booked my train tickets and my accommodation and my entry tickets, so I'm pretty much done. That's not the right bag. Oh, it's a Faye thing, so it's a Faye bag. So in my Faye bag is the Loft pattern, which she kindly gave me. I bought the pattern online, but she gave me the paper copy when I last saw her at Wonderwall. And the yarn that's going in this is Vicky Brown, and I think I've shown you these before. The leftovers from my Picking Flowers sweater arm motifs, and this is Fibre Spates Vivacious or Scrum? No, Vivacious 4-ply merino in Peacock, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Peacock. So 2 are tonal. They've all got merino in them in various forms, and 1 is speckled. So we'll see. I've not seen many ones made of anything other than John Arbon knit by numbers. So I'm going to make the 4-ply one. She has just released the DK version, so I'm planning on buying the knitted DK pattern. And I'll go, when I go to Yarndale, John Arbon will be there, and I'll buy the DK knit by numbers from them. So I have a John Arbon version and I have a stash version. So that's on my Yarndale shopping list. Right, I'm going to put that back there. Next one is socks. I said I was itching to make a new pair of socks, and the next pair is for my husband. And I'm going to make him, and this is a free pattern on Ravelry, the Hermione's Everyday Socks. And again, this has kind of been a bit viral in the knitting world recently. It's quite an old pattern. The reason why I want to make the Hermione's Everyday rather than doing just a vanilla sock is because this is what my husband has chosen. Plain turquoise Drops Fable. And I know me, I will get bored if it's just a vanilla sock. So I thought I showed him a couple of different patterns for as long as I could keep his attention, because he doesn't really do. He said, I want a pair of socks. I'm like, okay, which ones? Not cable, I think was what I got. So yeah, he chose Hermione's every day. The other one that he said was quite nice was the same designer, was the Ron. It's another Harry Potter one. It's the one based on Neville. No, the one based on Neville. And he liked that one as well. But I thought, do you know what? I'm going to do Hermione's, because at least I can take to Instagram if I get stuck. Because I know at least 2 people who have made that pattern. So that's the next one, and I am contemplating whether I do them on 2. I preferred Magic Loop when I was making my first pair of socks. I like the short circulars, but my hands cramped up a lot with them. I felt more in control with the Magic Loop, with Magic Loop method. So I think I'm going to do the Magic Loop. I do have 2 pairs of interchangeable 2.75 needles, so I might just do them 2 at a time and do what I did with this one. So rib 1, rib 2, length, length, heel, heel, decreases, length, toes. I think that's probably what I'm going to do, so then I don't suffer from second sock syndrome. And then the last one is, I'm going to show you one of my acquisitions in here, but I'll show. So basically, these yarns that I used as my accent colours for my skimming stones, there's still loads of them left. I used under 40 grams of each of them for skimming stones, which is what Crochet Project said would happen. So they said to use 4 20-gram minis, and I used 80 grams over 2 colours rather than 80 grams over 4 colours, just under 80 grams. So I still have quite a lot left. So this is my oak, and this is my wild honey. Now, for those of you who watched, I think, was it last time or the time before that? I can't remember. When I went to Bath to a yarn story, I also picked up, and it still looks dreadful because I unskeined it, the La Bien Aimée. La Bien Aimée. This is the Winter Garden colourway, again in skinny singles. So I had, so what's that? I've got 60, 120, 220 grams of merino skinny singles. And I went, okay, what can I do with 3 colours? And then the Tits Out Collective happened, and I'll talk more about that in new things. But I got a skinny singles merino also from Amy of Stranded Dye Works. So again, let's see if this will focus. Totally taking it off camera. There we go. Which is her Tits Out Collective colourway, which is called If I Want Exposure, I'll Get My Tits Out brackets bras off a clock. And it came through, and I bought this because I loved it, and I actually quite liked working with single ply merino. I loved her colourway and her response to the Tits Out Collective. I didn't even think about what I'd use it for, because that's what Tits Out Collective was about. It was about going to catch them all. But I thought, and I put it together with this, and then I put it together with this, and actually there's an orange in here that very, very, very closely resembles the, oh god, here we go, that, and I put that on it as well, and I went, ooh! So I went, okay, what shawl needs 320 grams of wool, of merino, or yarn, as it, oh goodness, look at this! I'll have to sort that out in a minute. And I've had Stephen West's Vertices Unite in my queue since Amy from Stranded made hers in her kind of dirty pink colourway. And that needs 5 colours. So I went, right, Yarndale shopping list, or even Southern Wool Show shopping list. So those, I need to find another contrast colour that will go with, and I've even started planning my Vertices Unite colourway already. So yeah, Vertices Unite will be started after Yarndale, if not Southern Wool Show. I think that's it of my queue. So, seeing as I spoke about my Tits Out Collective, I'm going to tell you about my other Tits Out Collectives. These are the other 2. Aren't they beautiful? So, first one that I got, I had to get, this is the one that was my favourite of. When I was looking at the hashtags and looking at the gallery that was on. Okay, this has been done to death. Let's go back to the start. This has been done to death by every single podcaster who's been talking about Tits Out Collective, but Countess Ablaze, who is a dyer in Manchester, in the north of England, and I so want to go to her studio. Part of me wishes I was driving to Yarndale rather than getting the train, because then I could go on my way on the Friday to Manchester, even though Manchester is nowhere near Skipton. It's nearer than it is to me, so and like kind of go to Manchester, go to her dye studio, and then go to Skipton. But I'm not driving, I'm getting the train, because I learnt my lesson last year. Anyway, so Countess Ablaze, earlier this year, late last year, was basically someone tried to mug her off for exposure, and saying it was a charity event. She saw through it because she's a savvy woman, and because of it, created two beautiful yarn colourways called Shit, Tea and Tray Bakes, and If I Want Exposure, I'll Get My Tits Out. They did really well, they raised a lot of money for charity, and then someone, either she or someone, noticed that another indie dyer who had bought that yarn and had posted photos of herself knitting with that yarn, had basically ripped off the colourway and was selling it as their own, for their own profit, not for charity. And instead of getting pissed off and naming and shaming that dyer, she decided to turn it into good and working with people rather than competing with people, and released the colour combinations for her If I Want Exposure, I'll Get My Tits Out, and called it the Tits Out Collective. 200 and now I think it's 287? Yeah, dyers, makers, crafters, maker of notions, all sorts of people got involved in this. It took 13 days from her coming up with this idea to it being launched. Just shows the power of collaboration, just how we just want to be nice to each other, basically. It launched on the 1st of July, it launched at midday on the 1st of July, and it was pretty much a gotta catch them all. And I was looking on the gallery that she posted at 12 noon, and I'll post to the video that her and Julie Knits in Paris created went to launch the thing. It was just hilarious. If you're of a weak disposition, don't watch it. And when I saw all the things that people were dyeing, and my favourite indie dyers were making, and all that kind of stuff, and I saw this one, which is Townhouse Yarns, who are based out of Dublin. They're the guys that are behind Woolin, and I fell in love. So this is the Townhouse Yarns. This is called If I Want Exposure, I'll Get My Tits Out, Get Your Paws Off My Silky Drawers. It is 50% merino, 50% silk. It is the softest thing. And I just had to have it because it is so vibrant. It's so vibrant. Yeah, so that one is going to be a shawl for me, one skein shawl, or I might combine it with the leftovers from my... Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna combine it with the leftovers from my merino yak silk. It's that beautiful consistency though. It's just gorgeous. The next one, apart from Amy's, because I saw Amy's and went, I want that. And Amy did hers on for Stranded Dye Works, sorry. She did hers on several different bases, so I could have spent quite a lot of money with Stranded Dye Works. The third one was the Wool Kitchen, who I've not bought from before, but again, I saw the colours, particularly these pops of yellow in the top. And this one is called If I Want Exposure, I'll Get My Tits Out. Manners, please! This one is really interesting because it is a fingering weight yarn, but it is 80% Blue Face Leicester and 20% bamboo, and it actually feels like a sport weight. It feels thicker than these two. Part of me is thinking socks, particularly since I I knit quite tightly. I think I'd be able to get less stitches in around with this one. And it is a beautiful colour. It's just that those pops of like neon yellow are just beautiful. So those are my tits out. I then, Fjord Fibres, who Faye from the Crochet Circle podcast waxes lyrical about for socks, she did I think it was a national holiday in Norway. I think she's from Norway. Gilly. She did, I think it was free shipping or there was a percentage off. Anyway, so I bought 50 grams of, which is a half skein, of 2 different colourways. And that's alright actually. So this one is called, oh here we go, I can't even remember, Calypso Island. Love it. And it is 80% wool, 20% polyester, and it's the Trollfjord sock base. And it's got Norwegian wool in it, and it does feel quite toothy compared to other sock yarns that I have, and it looks like a looser twist. But if Faye says they make good socks, they make good socks, so I'm going to try those. They're going to be shorty socks because they're only 50 grams, or if I can find a similar base at Yarndale, or I might just buy an extra skein from Fjord Fibres, although I am on a yarn buying ban. And then this one, because I had to get it, it's called A Day in Provence. It's alright, it's quite a light colour. For those of you who don't know, I spent most of my summers as a child in Provence because that's where my grandmother lived. So we were in a village called Olière, which is just outside a market town called Saint-Maximin, which is about halfway between Marseille and Aix-en-Provence. So those yarn colours just spoke to me. Those will be socks. I'm hoping they'll, because they're 50 grams, I'm hoping that I'll be able to, I think I can make shorties at least from them. I think. We'll see. If I can do contrasting toes and cuffs. Anyway, last yarny purchase was these! These are the Bobiny t-shirt yarn. So they're recycled t-shirt yarn, and these I got from Amber. Now I'm going to show you this one up close because this one has strawberries on it. Can you see? I love it. I bought these off Amber, who is Thread the Love. Really sadly, she's closing her shop. Totally understandable because she is about to give birth to her 3rd child and basically became pregnant as she opened her shop. So circumstances haven't really worked with her, bless her. So I totally understand why she's closing the shop. It's really, really sad, particularly since they moved to the front of the arcade. So I went and visited when she opened at the back of the arcade that she was in. It is quite a dark shop, and she moved to the front of the arcade where there was natural light, and I really wanted to go and see it before she closed. But never mind, you have to do what you have to do. So when she did a de-stash, or rather a sale of all the things that she's trying to remove from her shop, she put these on and I went, right, I'm having them. I've never ever crocheted, knitted with t-shirt yarn, and I wanted to rectify that. So last thing is not yarny, and I'm going to put my notes here because they were so. Vicky Brown, you know I love her yarn, has entered a new venture with her sister called Stitcher Tees, and she created a Kickstarter, or that her and her sister created a Kickstarter to fund the startup costs for that business. They way surpassed their original total needed, and with Kickstarter, for those who don't know, you sign up for a level of support, and for that level you get certain things. So what I signed up for was a bag and a sweatshirt, and they came! So I have the Yarnivore bag, which is such a sturdy canvas bag, and what I really like about it is that it's wide. Quite often you get canvas bags that are actually quite thin, and yes, you can get like an A4 thing in it, but also this is a box bottom, so you can fit a ton of stuff in this. It's really good. I'm taking this to Yarndale because it will fit loads of yarn in it. And then I got a grey hoodie with a ball of yarn and a hook. Now, this is slightly too small for me, mainly to give me impetus to lose my weight. It fits, it's just a bit tight. And the arms are long. They're long. I love sweaters with really long arms. Anyway, right. We are at that point where I'm announcing the raffle. Now, in this bag is the Granny E's Frugal Sunburst blanket. I'm not going to get out of it because it's beautifully folded, and it's going to be transported in that bag to whoever is the lucky winner. My grandmother died a year ago this evening. Her death certificate says tomorrow, the 10th of... I'm filming on the 9th of August, and I found out that actually her death certificate says the 10th of August, so it must have been the early hours of tomorrow morning. That was a year ago, but needless to say, my deadline for the raffle was the 9th of August, and the 9th of August is what it is. And she suffered for a long time in the later years of her life with dementia and then Alzheimer's, and was in the care of care homes for much of that period. And we saw my grandmother basically disappear to the point where she didn't know who I was. She found it very difficult working out who my father was, and actually had regressed pretty much back to her teens by the time she passed away. Alzheimer's and dementia are horrible, and they're growing because we're an ageing population, and it's not an area that's, well, a lot of diseases are not very well funded. So I wanted to support the Alzheimer's Society, as well as the charity that my grandmother remembered in her will, which is the Smallwood Trust. The Smallwood Trust, and I'll put links to both the charities below, or in my blog post. The Smallwood Trust help women who are in financial difficulty, usually single women or divorced, widowed, all sorts of reasons why women are single, and they provide financial support, and I think they also provide support with managing finances as well, so learning to live with a lower income. Now, my grandmother was divorced relatively early on. I think my dad was he was either in his early 20s or in his late teens when my grandfather left. And my aunt and uncle were definitely very much in their teens. And she worked. She worked a lot of hours for not particularly much. And she saved, and she was frugal, and she was one of those people that went to Sainsbury's at the end of the day and picked up all the bargains and put them in her freezer. And it meant that actually she was comfortable, and it meant that we were able to pay for her care somewhat from her savings. So I wanted to celebrate my granny's frugality and also the fact that she crocheted. I was looking back through old photos, and if I can get permission from my cousins, I'll try and put a photo of us when we were children, and you can see the crochet blanket on the sofa behind us. And she didn't teach me how to crochet, but I watched her do it, and then I learned myself later on. Later on, she actually tried to teach me how to knit and failed. So I wanted to celebrate that with something that would memorialise her and also raise some money. So I opened the raffle for her blanket far too late, but I did, and it was on. It was a crowdfunder because we, for reasons unknown to me, probably because it's hard to manage. Just Giving, well, Smallwood Trust is not on Just Giving. I've sent them emails to say, can you register yourself, and they won't. So Smallwood Trust is not on Just Giving, and B, you can't fundraise for two charities equally when you're doing an actual fundraising page. So I had to do a crowdfunding page. So you have to trust me that I'm going to give half this money to the Smallwood Trust and half of this money to Alzheimer's. Helpfully, a lot of people trusted me on that, and I put down that I wanted to raise £200 for this blanket, because I felt that if I'd have eBayed it and auctioned it, then that's probably what my aim had been. We got to, I just checked it before I came on, and it is now 2:45 on Thursday the 9th of August 2018. I closed it at 12 noon, and on there we have raised £301. Now, once the admin fees and all that kind of stuff have come out, it won't be £301, but still, you guys, I love you. We totally smashed my target. And from that, 148 tickets were bought. I had an anonymous donation of £5. Thank you, whoever you were, which couldn't go towards the raffle. But so 148 people, and I have the list of people on my iPad, which is on Excel. Okay, so I am going to ask Siri. Here's 148, isn't it? Hey Siri.
What's up?
Pick a number between 1 and 148.
123.
There we go, so 123. So, number 123 is... Ah! It's my friend Amy! Oh, that's lovely. Okay, sorry. I don't know what my reaction would have been for anyone else, but Amy lives in the same town as me. Her little boy is 2 months older than my little girl. So I'll get to see this blanket again, which makes me happy. Okay, so Amy, you don't watch this podcast, I know you don't, but I will get in contact with you, and and I don't have to post it. That's ridiculous that just came to my head. Whoo! Yay! Okay, so that's done. Again, massive. I literally, every time I got an email from Just Giving saying someone's made a donation, I kind of did a little jig, because I can't quite put into words how much making this blanket meant to me, how much the people that sent squares. Guys, I'm going to forget one of you if I list it, so I'm not going to, because I don't want to forget one of you, but you're all feckin' awesome for doing that. And yeah, love you. Okay, my camera battery's about to go, so we're going to wrap this up. Life update. I finished work! I no longer am employed. It's great. I came out of the most hideous time. I got actually really stressed with the ceremonies, but I got some beautiful messages, some lovely flowers. Loads of people came to my leaving picnic. I do feel quite sad to have left the university, but needs must. It was getting to a point where actually this wasn't healthy for me. It's going to be good for my little girl, and yeah. We're fine and dandy, but I am in day 4 of unemployment and I don't think it has quite hit me yet. So that's that. I'm in a new room. My husband has got a new job, so because of that we're going to be doing some building work to get him, because he'll be working from home. We're going to be doing some building work to get him a pod in the garden, and because he's getting a new room, I got to have a bigger room. So we're actually in my spare room. I've moved a double bed out of here. And I'm going to be moving a double sofa bed in here. The box room where I was in, is going to get a single bed. And yeah, it's really cool because I've got space, and we're going to get a little table for my little girl to have her own space as well. So she'll have, like, over there will be her space, and she'll have, like, her crayons and her colouring pencils and her pens and lots of paper and paints, and where she can get crafty as well. She started taking an interest in hooks and wool at 2 years and 3 months. 4 months, good lord. So that's that. With that, I have gone through all my crochet magazines. I've got a load of crochet magazines that I don't know what to do with. What do you do with old magazines that you don't want? I don't want to recycle them because they're still good. There's still good patterns in there. They're just not patterns I want to do. So if anyone has any ideas about what I do with old crochet magazines, they're mostly Simply Crochet, but let me know. And I've got a load of yarn. I went through my acrylic stash, and I'm starting to try and either give away my acrylic or think about how I can use it. And I will now, and this is a personal thing, and it's mostly Blue Planet, I don't want to make throwaway items that are acrylic. So if I use my acrylic, I'm going to be using them for heirloom things like blankets and baby makes, because I know that they'll be kept and they won't be thrown away and put on landfill where they won't decompose. And I won't be buying any more. Acrylic is great. Acrylic is absolutely amazing for when you're beginning because it's cheap, and it allows you to practice without worrying about wasting money. I have no problem with acrylic in itself. For me, I want to make sure that if I'm making something, it's not going to add to the world's plastic problem. So, with that said, I have got a whole bag of acrylic that's going to the charity shop. Amongst other things, I've also got a bag of cotton 4-ply, which I'm never going to use, so someone else might as well get use out of it. And a few other bits and bobs. I think that's it. That's my life update. I have 2.5 weeks now where my little girl's still in nursery pretty much full time because we decided to do that. My husband's off on annual leave next week, which is really nice, so we're going to spend some time. We're going to go to IKEA. But other than that, my life is now adjusting to the new normal. Getting a lot of stuff done that I haven't had time to do, getting back into my planners a little bit, a little bit. I got a new planner from my lovely workmates as a leaving gift, so I'll probably do a video on this and get back to my planner stuff at some point. That's the Scribbles That Matter bullet planner for anyone who's a bit of a planner nerd like me. So that'll be being set up soon. Yeah, I think that's about me done. I've rambled along for about an hour now, so I think let's cut it off here. Thanks ever so much for watching, everyone, for coming back and listening to my rambles and listening to my ridiculous excitement about yarn. It's not ridiculous. I know you share it. I will see you very soon. Bye! We're rolling. Let's see how this goes. Oh, let's turn the volume down. At least I won't get distracted by the... You're on remote control. So, hopefully it means I won't get distracted by the screen because I'll be staring at the... That'll be disconcerting, won't it?